Hi, everybody. I'm Mike. This is a bunch of Guns and Gear Reviews, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second every Friday night at 7 p.m. Eastern. So uncover your keyboards and fire up your fingers. Time to join the conversation.
Good evening, everybody. It is Friday, December 28th, 2018, and you are listening to The Right of the People, where we use the first to defend the second. Got a lot to talk about today, as we always do. It seems that this is a topic that is pretty much inexhaustible. You know, look at how many live streams come out of gun channels every week just on this topic, so that should give you a hint, right? There's a lot going on in the Second Amendment world. Before we get into it, though, I want to say hello to everybody out there on the chat, and let me go ahead and introduce my panel. Today we have with us Mr. Squib, but not at work. How you doing, sir?
Yeah, don't worry, people. I'm not unemployed. I won't be milking the taxpayer dollars for unemployment. Yes, I am happily not at work today.
All right. Enjoy the evening off.
Hey, and thanks for the blue wrench. That's kind of nice. I don't really know how to use it, but it's just kind of a status symbol, so appreciate that.
And we got the kingpin himself, David Bowling. How you doing, sir?
All right. What's happening, guys? How is everybody tonight?
I'm doing great. On top of the world, or, well, on top of the dung heap anyway. Out there in the chat, we look like we're pretty full tonight so far. We got, let's see, Stealth Hunter 1000. He was an early adopter tonight, as was the Tactical Pickle, and Seven Wonders, Guitar Man Pete, Vanessa Kitty. Let's see, who else we got there? No Way Jose. How you doing? I think that's a new one. I don't believe I recognize your name. So if you are new, welcome. Hope you enjoy what you hear. Hiker Bro, how you doing? Glad that everybody could make it tonight. Let me dig into my stack of stuff.
We got David Campbell out there too, and
why am I not
scrolling? I'm scrolling. Well, you got a busy screen. We got Calaveras 32 Special out there. I don't know if you said his name or not.
Oh, that's right. David Campbell is out there. I must have missed him. Hey, Dave, how you doing? Yeah, I got Pickle there at the beginning.
Well, I haven't managed to hang out before, but I've seen screenshots. Your screen is probably really busy. You're looking all over the place.
Yeah, I'm looking all over the place. I've got like 3 different windows up. Bunch of tabs. Over on the gun channel side, let's see. Let me refresh that. I know we got PNW Woods over there. Or we did. Speaking of gun channels, we are simulcast live on gun channels, the water cooler, the internet Second Amendment community. If you are not a member over there, head on over and sign up. It is free. You do not have to be a content creator. You can be just anybody just wanting to find someone to talk with. Any time of the day or night, you can find someone there to talk with and something to talk about. So head on over there and check it out. Gunchannels.com. And no, they're not paying me. More's a pity. And let's go ahead and dig right into the meat of the subject tonight. First one we'll talk about is, well, last week we talked about how Governor Kasich here in Ohio wisely and beneficently vetoed our burden of proof bill, which, for those of you who aren't familiar with the story, the burden of proof in self-defense cases, instead of being on the prosecution like it is in all the other 49 states, here in Ohio, if you claim self-defense, you have to prove that you were indeed justified in using self-defense. Well, not anymore. Since the governor vetoed it last week, our legislature overrode his veto. I think that is Outstanding. This is by the Associated Press. Gun owner rights bill becomes Ohio law after legislature overrode Kasich veto. Columbus. A bill broadening gun owner rights has become law in Ohio after the Republican-led state legislature overrode GOP Governor John Kasich's veto. The Senate voted 21-11 on Thursday to reject Kasich's decision to strike down the bill. That followed a House override earlier in the day. The legislation expands gun access for off-duty police officers and allows preemption of local gun restrictions, among other things. Ohio's already had preemption, and it's a pretty strong preemption. However, this makes it even stronger, which is a good thing. And that way you don't have the mess they have in Pennsylvania with different cities wanting to have different gun laws despite their state's preemption. It doesn't quite have the fight. I mean, they don't quite have the teeth in their law that we do. Let's see. Senators had hoped to address Kasich's objections by stripping its so-called stand your ground language, but he vetoed the legislation anyway. Kasich opposed language shifting the burden of proof in self-defense cases from defendants to prosecutors. He also criticized lawmakers for refusing to debate a red flag law allowing gun rights to be temporarily stripped from people who show warning signs of violence. Unfortunately, and I've left the article. This is me editorializing. Unfortunately, we still have a duty to retreat here in Ohio unless you're in your home or vehicle. The original version of the bill included, what some are calling stand your ground language, but I don't necessarily believe it's stand your ground language. Actually, well, let me rephrase that. The original part of the bill didn't. Then it was amended to have actual stand your ground and immunity from prosecution language in it, but that amendment got stripped out and it had only left this burden of proof stuff and the stuff that got passed, and it did have for a while language in it that removed our duty to retreat anywhere but our home and vehicle. But that got stripped out as well, and now we are left with just the burden of proof shift, which in my opinion is still miles better than where we were. I suspect that fight isn't over yet, though. I believe that it's still on the radar of organizations like the Buckeye Firearms Association, Ohioans for Concealed Carry, Ohio Gun Owners, all of them, to continue fighting for the legislation and wording that got stripped out of it. So we'll see how this develops over the next few legislative sessions. We'll see if DeWine is going to live up to his promises to support the Second Amendment. As you may remember, I was not exactly a DeWine supporter during the primaries. So we'll see. Hopefully Ohio gets a little bit stronger. Let's see, got a couple more in. We got Grim 90 out there as well. Vanessa Kitty says, not quite here, budget. We have duty to retreat, even though we have castle doctrine. So basically, you must prove why drawing a weapon was necessary. Yep. Hiker Bro says, prove the opposite of the prosecution's case. That's some Monty Python Inquisition kind of thinking right there. Yeah, exactly. I don't understand why Ohio has been like that for decades. For a couple hundred years. I don't understand why. But hopefully we're on the right track there. Drucifer says, call him Flipper. Yeah, that's why I'm real hesitant to believe anything that DeWine has said. Now, it is true that as Attorney General, DeWine has been pretty Second Amendment friendly. I will give him that. He's even filed briefs, in favor of the Second Amendment with at the federal level as his duties as Ohio Attorney General. He has expanded the reciprocity agreements with other states. So hopefully DeWine isn't as bad as I fear he's going to be. but hey, I kind of held my nose and voted for him because the alternative, Cordray, would have been far, far, far worse. It's sad that that's our choices in today's day and age. So, yay for Ohioans. In other news,
wait, before you go on to that, I know that it seems like maybe it's not a big win, but I think you kind of said it well to Night Strike. Was it last week or the week before, about a little at a time. Sometimes we gotta take our victories a little at a time. I know it's not everything that you wanted, but I mean, the way things have been going, a little at a time may be the only way we get stuff. And I know it's awful hard to not get discouraged, and I also understand where he was coming from about us needing a big win. But for right now, a little at a time is still better than losing more rights.
Oh, absolutely. We have again, it goes back to the old I want everything right now, or I want everything right now, but I'm willing to settle for this now, and then we'll come back and get this later, and then this later, and then this later, and keep moving down the road, and that's kind of what had to happen here with this bit of legislation here in Ohio, is the incrementalism thing. Again, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm sure, that the antis have adopted that strategy with great success, and it's about time we do as well. And we're going to have to, because the times, they are a changing, unfortunately. But before we get into that, I want to welcome Stealth Hunter to the panel. He popped in. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How you doing?
Wonderful, wonderful. Where are you from, by the way? What part of the country?
PA.
Okay.
I'm in your neck of the woods, so to speak.
So during the show, can we talk about what's going on in Pittsburgh next month?
Sure, go
rally?
ahead. Absolutely. Bring it up now. It's on the 7th, I think, is the rally in Pittsburgh against the Pittsburgh City Council's illegal and against Pennsylvania law intention to adopt an assault weapons ban.
That's about the gist of it.
Yep. So
can I read the post I found on the, what is this, the PAFOA? Was this Pennsylvanians for Firearm Owners Association?
Go ahead.
It's not easy to navigate the website, but I found this. It says, attention, calling patriots 3%ers and Second Amendment supporters. Monday, January 7th, 2019 at 12 noon. We are meeting downtown at 414 Grant Street, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, 15219, in front of Mayor Peduto's office to protest his unconstitutional bill proposal infringing on our Second Amendment rights. We need high numbers of people to come down and help protest. Bring your flag signs and most importantly, your guns. Most important, your guns. This will be a peaceful protest. No fighting, no riots, and absolutely no taunting with your weapons. We are better than that. We just want bodies with arms to show our local government that we are not going to back down from this criminal act. Open carry your rifles on your shoulders and pistols on your waist. American flags, Gadsden flags, Second Amendment flags are all welcome, and anything you can manage to make signs out of that portray your message. Local police will be informed beforehand that we will be there. They may not like it, but that's not our problem. You have a few weeks to request. This is a posting from, I don't know when. When was it made? I can't find it. Anyhow, you have time to make time off work. Let's do this. I don't. This does have a lot of information here, but there's two things. I've gone to Michigan ones and I've gone to an Ohio one, and I don't remember seeing any posts like this. Nobody here or in Ohio had to be told no fighting, no riots, and absolutely no taunting with your weapons. So that makes me a little bit nervous that they would put this in here. Like, they have to be told that. And it also says local police will be informed. They will not like it, but that is their problem. I didn't see that on any Michigan or Ohio sites either. So that's making me a little bit kind of like, I hope there's not an issue with the police. And then when I looked up Pennsylvania laws regarding open carry, they're really not easy to follow. I'm not criticizing Pennsylvania. I'm just saying that I don't know. Can you really open carry in Pennsylvania without state police slamming you to the ground?
You can open carry in Pennsylvania. It's completely legal. It's protected under Title 21 of the Pennsylvania State Constitution.
Okay, I'm looking under Title 18, so I'm looking in the wrong place then.
Right. Title 21 of the Pennsylvania State Constitution states that it is legal to open carry a firearm for defense of the state or personal protection. It shall not be questioned.
Okay, because I'm finding something here that says you have to have a permit. And I'm like, wait a minute, what?
That has to do with Philadelphia, and to open carry a gun in Philly, you have to have a licensed carry firearm permit. The issue is, and this is a separate discussion, but they cannot demand that you show your licensed carry firearm permit unless you are concealed carrying. It's already been ruled on in Philly. They still do it anyway, but that has nothing to do with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh cannot enforce such a thing. They cannot demand your license to carry a firearm permit. That's all number one. Number two, if you're an out-of-state resident, the moment you come into the state, it's legal to open carry. So you don't need to have a license to carry firearm permit to open carry in PA.
So, Stealth Hunter,
go ahead.
Would you be uncomfortable open carrying in Pittsburgh?
If I was going, not really.
Okay.
I mean, I've never been to Pittsburgh. I live on the other side of the state. I'm on the east coast of PA, over near Philly. So, with that being said, have I open carried even where I live, like on my side of the state? Yes. And what I would tell anybody who's going to open carry, it's no different than concealed carry. You're carrying a gun. Difference is people can see it. If you're carrying it, you better know how to use it and be willing to use it. As far as the cops and that little part you read about whether the cops like it or not, that has to do with the laws and rules and regulations that they're trying to pass. Pittsburgh, Philly, and a bunch of other places have in the past basically walked up to somebody who's open carrying and, well, you're breaking the law, and just taking their gun, taking their property, and then they have to sue to get their stuff back because they don't like it. Not because you're breaking the law, just because the cops don't like it. And the reason I'm going to speculate they put that in there is because under state law here, if someone starts with you and tries to take a firearm, that's attempted theft of a firearm. You can use lethal force against that person. Cops are not exempt from that. If a cop walked up to me and tried to take my gun and didn't say I was under arrest, that's attempted theft of a firearm. I can shoot that cop under state law. And I think that's part of why they put that in there. And again, I'm speculating. If the cops do something, basically just let them do it, step back, don't get involved. Even though they may be, what they're doing is illegal, just step back and let them do what they're going to do.
Well, that's always the safest course of action. If a police officer is doing something illegal like that, I do not grant consent, but I will not resist and fight it out in court.
How does Pennsylvania feel about non-residents carrying? For anybody who doesn't live in Pennsylvania that might come and join the rally.
They don't, as far as I know, they don't care. The moment you step into PA, you can open carry. You don't have to be a state's resident to open carry. You have to be a state's resident to conceal carry or have an out-of-state concealed carry permit that's honored by Pennsylvania, and you have to have the Pennsylvania license to carry firearm permit that's out of state to go with it to conceal carry. That's it. So if you showed up and you had your weapon, whatever it is, and you, let's say it's a handgun, if it's properly in a holster, if it's a rifle, you can have mag in it, round chambered, as long as it's pointed down, or let's say you have it pointed up like some people carry hunting rifles. It could be draped across the front of your chest, your back. As long as you're not trying to hold it and take an aggressive stance, you're not breaking the law. You ain't bothering nobody. Very simple. And the cops, again, because of what they've done in the past, may try to say it's disturbing the peace. It's already been ruled that it's not. So you can do whatever you need to do.
Vanessa Kitty wants to know if PA offers a non-resident concealed carry permit. I know they used to. I don't know if they still do.
They do. You have to go to the closest county to where you live. So let's say you live in Delaware, right? In the state of Delaware. The closest county when you come into Pennsylvania is going to be Delaware County. If you are coming from New York, the closest county may be Bucks County or Montgomery County, and that's where you would apply, at which point you have to show you're out of state. You pay, I believe it's $25 now. It used to be 20, and everything gets sent to the state police to do the background check, and then they'll mail it to you.
But you have to physically go there?
Yes, you would physically have to go into the state, go into the county, sheriff's department, and just bring I believe they need your driver's license, your state's carry permit, 2 pieces of mail to prove residency, and then you need to have like 2 references, which have to be somebody that's not related to you. So like 2 friends or something like that, and you can apply and get the permit.
There you go.
So if you're standing outside the mayor's office with a bunch of other Pro 2A people with an AR-15 slung over your shoulder, you're not supposed to get arrested.
As long as you're on the public sidewalk, you're not on their property, you're legal, 100%.
Oh, they can't stand in the courtyard?
From what I understand, private property is private property. Now, if it's open to the public, if they have rules or regulations posted, you better follow them.
Oh.
But if you're not sure, what I would say is like someone that's with you, have someone like take off their guns, knives, all their weapons, and go look and see if you see signs. If you want to like go somewhere or whatever, outside of that, just stay on the sidewalk. For those that want to walk up into like they did in Harrisburg, the state capitol, that's different. That's Harrisburg. We're not talking Harrisburg. We're talking Pittsburgh. Their laws and rules and regulations, they can restrict where they can have or allow, I should say, weapons in certain government buildings. For instance, I have a license to carry firearm permit. I cannot legally and lawfully walk into a post office, courtroom, or some other government building. Okay, a courthouse, I can walk in. I have to check my weapon and notify them immediately when I walk in to have it locked up in a lockbox, and I have to show my license to carry firearm permit. But I can't walk anywhere else in the courthouse without checking my weapon. So that's where I live, and that's generally how it works across the state. Now in Pittsburgh, if they say, well, our district courts or our government buildings, we don't allow weapons in at all, they're supposed to give you a due notice, which is a warning, and it's supposed to be posted. If they don't do that and they grab you, you're going to win in court because it's not posted and you don't know. I would say ask and check first with somebody at that location before you try start to walk in.
What is so special about a post office? Why is it such a big deal to take a gun into a post office?
Because it's a federal building.
That's it. Just like just government property.
Yep, because it's federal government property. You're not allowed. Not in any building.
Rich White just said you can't carry in the courtyard of the Pittsburgh city or county buildings. So
see, that's kind of, I mean, if everybody's standing on the sidewalk, you're gonna run out of room quick unless there's like 12 people there with signs. Because the courtyard it's not private property. That is government. That is public property. So I don't understand. See, okay, let me give you a scenario. For those who have never done this, I've done this in Michigan, I've done it in Ohio, I haven't done it anywhere else, so I can't speak for everywhere. But you drive down to the Capitol, you find a parking structure. Sometimes it's several blocks from where you're doing the rally. You're doing a rally in front of the Capitol building. You're doing a rally in the courtyard. You're doing a rally on the steps of the Capitol building. You're there in front of the Capitol building. Okay, so you find a parking structure, you pay to park, you get out of your vehicle, you put your rifle over your shoulder, you put your holster on, your belt on, whatever, and you put your sidearm in your holster, and you walk all the way down to the Capitol building, and you join the crowd. Maybe you just walk right up, or if it's fenced in, you find the opening in the fence, and you go through the gate. There'll be cops all over the place. There might be 2 cops. There might be 200 cops, but you don't get frisked. You don't get stopped and questioned. You don't get. There aren't a whole lot of TV crews there interviewing. I don't know where people get the idea that there's just going to be all this TV presence, because there isn't.
Yeah, there's barely any.
Yeah, and there'll be people there in body armor. There'll be people there just in regular jeans and a t-shirt. There'll be people with guns. There'll be people without guns. There'll be people with their hunting rifle, the only gun they own, over their shoulder, and then there'll be somebody there with an AR-15 and a sidearm and maybe a knife or something. And you have people go up to a podium. They've got a speaker system, and they talk about this. They talk about their experience, or they talk about that maybe they're a politician and they're trying to get reelected, and the whole time people just listen and film and talk and all that. And then when it's all over, everybody disperses. You walk the several blocks back to your parking structure. You put your weapons in their cases, and you pay to get out and go home. That's all it is.
Well, I wouldn't recommend trying to carry a knife here in PA, especially a fixed blade. They're illegal. Now, if you have a folding knife, that's fine, so long as it's not like spring assisted or some sort of mechanical assistance.
Oh, now see, I wouldn't have known that. I would have been a felon carrying my spring assisted flipper knife.
I found out 2 years ago. I had bought a knife. I was carrying it, and someone let me know, spring assisted's illegal. They slipped it in and changed some stuff, and I had the knife I had. I actually took the spring out of it because they're just behind the grips and stuff. Once I took the spring out, it was legal.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and get moving here. It's 7:30, and I only got till 8, and I got a couple more things I want to make sure I cover. Kind of long. We were talking about having that a little bit earlier about having that momentum and moving things down the field incrementally as opposed to being able to get them all at once, and how that has been a successful strategy for the anti-gunners, and how we should probably adopt that ourselves, because things are getting tougher and tougher to get that all at once. And NPR happens to agree. They published a piece on December 26th by Melissa Block titled, "2018 brought a tectonic shift in the gun control movement, advocates say." Gun control advocates view 2018 as a turning point in their campaign to strengthen the country's gun laws. They cite widespread success in passing laws through state legislatures. They're also buoyed by Democratic victories in the midterm elections, which flipped control of the House of Representatives. Another benchmark? In this election cycle, gun control groups outspent gun rights groups for the first time ever. Yeah, the numbers I've heard are by about at least 17 million. And if you think that's not going to be worse in the 2020 elections, you're daft. The advocates' optimism comes after a series of devastating mass shootings in 2018. They go to list everything from Marjorie Stoneman Douglas to the Borderline Bar and Grill and everything in between. Gun control groups point to February's Parkland school shooting in particular as a defining moment. Within weeks of the Parkland massacre, Florida's Republican governor, Rick Scott, who previously had an A+ rating from the NRA, broke with the group and signed a broad package of new gun restrictions. I was very surprised, says Allison Anderman, managing attorney with the Giffords Law Center to prevent gun violence. Florida Governor Rick Scott signed the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Public Safety Act in March, just weeks after the Parkland, Florida shooting. The scope of Florida's legislation was especially notable, coming as it did in a state that has earned the nickname the Gunshine State for its permissive gun laws. To pass a package of bills that included an extreme risk protection order, raised the minimum age to purchase guns, prohibited bump stocks, extended waiting periods, and designated $2 million in funding for urban gun violence reduction programs, I think was tremendous, Anderman says. Soon after that, Phil Scott, the Republican governor of Vermont, another gun-friendly state, signed the most extensive gun control measures that state has seen. According to the Giffords Center, this year marks a tectonic shift for gun control legislation in the states. By its count, more than half the states passed dozens of gun control measures. That includes 8 states plus the District of Columbia that passed extreme risk protection orders known as red flag laws. Contrast that with 2013, after the elementary school shooting in Newtown, Connecticut, when states passed more laws loosening gun restrictions rather than tightening them. Excuse me a moment, I have to take a drink. Love iced tea. Let's see, rather than tightening them. In state legislatures this year, Anderman says, the bipartisan effort was significant and not something that we have really seen in previous years. She credits much of that momentum to the student activists from Parkland, who quickly mobilized after the shooting and became a vocal force calling for tighter gun laws, a movement that led to March for Our Lives demonstrations around the country. You know, that thing that was propped up by the mainstream media and financed by Bloomberg. They have brought such a level of passion, Anderman says, and a new voice, a voice from a younger generation that is saying, look at what you have done to us, America. You've put us in harm's way. We're not going to stay silent. In the midterm elections, Democratic congressional candidates were galvanized to campaign on a gun control message with winning results. Of all the races that we worked on at the federal level, we won 90% of them, says Chris Brown, president of the Brady Campaign and Center to Prevent Gun Violence. In their Washington, D.C. offices, we walked past a board with bumper stickers reading "Enough Gun Violence" plastered over the names of defeated Republican congressmen. It's a long list. In the House of Representatives, Brown says, what we gained were about 40 seats where we defeated candidates who vote 100% of the time, every time with the NRA. Now, with the Democratic majority poised to take control of the House, Brown says, we have individuals elected who are committed to changing this issue, and many of whom feel that they've been elected with a mandate to make this a top priority. That is a sea change, and it's the beginning of something. It's not the end. In the final days of 2018, the Trump administration announced a ban on bump stocks, the devices that make semi-automatic rifles fire much faster to simulate a machine gun's fire. You know, that's actually the most accurate or close to accurate description of them I've heard from anyone in the media. That ban was expected after the October 2017 shooting at a country music festival in Las Vegas. There, the gunman used bump stocks to mow down hundreds of concert goers, killing 58 people. This past March, President Trump said bump stocks are going to be gone. Well, you know, they say that's what happened. We still don't know. The FBI has been notably silent on that. In the midterm elections, Democratic congressional candidates were galvanized to campaign on a gun control message with winning results. For gun rights groups, 2018 brought some gains at the state level, including laws in 4 states that expand stand your ground and self-defense laws, as well as successful efforts to fend off red flag laws in more than a dozen states. But, says Michael Hammond, legislative counsel for the group Gun Owners of America, I would be lying if I said I thought it was a victorious year for us. In his view, 2018 is a mixed bag. The anti-gun states clearly became more anti-gun, and the pro-gun states became more pro-gun, he says. Hammond's group bills itself as the only no-compromise gun lobby in Washington, or, as he puts it, we're the group that keeps the NRA honest. For example, while the NRA has said it's disappointed in the new federal bump stock ban, GOA has vowed to sue. And actually, they did finally file the lawsuit on that. Hammond is frustrated that the Republican-controlled Congress failed to pass one of the gun lobby's key goals, concealed carry reciprocity, which would require states to recognize the concealed carry permits from all other states, including states with weaker gun laws. Now, with Democrats in control of the House of Representatives, Hammond believes the outlook for gun rights groups is worse. It makes it impossible, I think, to pass proactive legislation, he says. In fact, Nancy Pelosi, the House Speaker designate, has pledged to make passing universal background checks a priority early in the new Congress. More gun control measures are likely to follow in the House, and lobbyist Lawrence Keene will be among those working to defeat them. Keene is a senior vice president and general counsel with the National Shooting Sports Foundation, which represents the gun industry. I would expect to see an age restriction bill, Keene says. I expect we'll see an attempt to ban modern sporting rifles again, but what we can get out of the House and what we can pass the Senate are two different animals. As Keene sees it, that's a much steeper climb given that the Senate became more pro-gun after the midterms, with Republicans increasing their majority by 2 seats. Looking forward, Keene and other gun rights activists are heartened by one long-lasting effect of 2018, a strengthened conservative majority in the U.S. Supreme Court. With this year's confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh, Keene concludes, the Second Amendment is in a safer place. And given everything that's happened this year, I think I think NPR was pretty much spot on with this assessment. You know, there have been a lot of defeats handed to us this year as far as, our fight for gun rights, but there have been some victories. And I think the most important thing that they downplayed there at the very end was the Supreme Court picks. Gorsuch was a pro-Second Amendment guy, and Kavanaugh, in his history, at least hasn't been anti-Second Amendment. So hopefully he will prove to be pro-Second Amendment if the court ever takes up any pro-Second Amendment cases anytime soon. So what do you guys think? Do we have a hard fight coming or business as usual?
Both.
How so both?
Because we still have to do what we're doing to begin with, but at the same time, they're bringing out, no pun intended, the big guns. We're going to have to do so as well.
We can't stay on the defensive. That seems like what most people who are protecting their freedom are doing, is going and living their normal day until someone infringes on their free speech or their private property or their Second Amendment. And they have no intention of stopping. They're coming up with new stuff every day, 100 times a day. And I think that we should count when they come up with some crazy idea for new gun laws and they get rejected, count that as a win, even though all we did was defend. Still count it as a win. But we also need to get out there and start scratching to get some other stuff back. Like, we need to be on the offensive instead of just being on the defensive.
How do we do that?
I would have to agree that we need to be on the offensive. However, the time to be on the offensive was this year and in 2017, when we had control of the House, the Senate, and the White House, and they did nothing because they're spineless and weak-kneed. That Concealed Carry Reciprocity Act should have been passed in both houses and signed into law, and it wasn't. The Hearing Protection Act should have been passed in both houses and signed into law, and it wasn't. The Republicans are too afraid of looking mean and looking like they don't care what the Democrats think to actually act. They will not seize the day. They will not seize the moment and strike while the iron's hot. They dither and they piddle fart around until the opportunity's passed. I have to agree with Ashley J out there when she says that a hard fight is coming, and it's coming because listen, the Democrats are, there's rumors out there that they're going to run Bloomberg for president. And if that happens, it's going to get ugly quick. It's going to get real ugly real quick. Well, you know what? Even if Bloomberg doesn't run, he is still going to be financially backing the anti-gunners to an even greater degree. They've been emboldened and encouraged by their successes in the 2018 elections. Come 2020, oh, it's on. It's on bad. He's going to, that 17 million that we were outspent by this year. I think Mark Walters is right when he says put a zero at the end of that. It'll turn into 170 million quick. And Bloomberg has the money to do it. Not to mention his other billionaire buddies who help finance the debacle out in Washington, that egregious ballot initiative that got passed out there. If you don't think that's coming to your state, you're nuts. Nuts.
I don't think he's going to run because that would be not good and at the same time a little bit funny to rich people running against one another, especially against Trump of all people. I don't think that's a good idea. But backing somebody to run against Trump, I can see that happening.
Well, it'll be one or the other. Even if, as I said, even if he doesn't run himself, you know full well he's going to. He'll turn the spigot on, and the money's going to flow.
Yeah, the corruption that we're going to see, and the rest of the world is going to see in the 2020 election run, is going to be absolutely disrespectful and horrendous. I mean, a disaster isn't even going to explain what this next presidential race is going to look like.
You think the Kavanaugh nomination process was bad? That's going to be an ice cream social in comparison to what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next is going to be horrific. And I think Ashley, again, hits the nail on the head when she says, this is when we fight like Wyatt Earp. Tell him I'm coming and hell's coming with me. We can't back down. And we can't. We are going to have to be out there and do everything we can to support things like this rally in Pittsburgh. Says the guy who can't go because he has to work the night before and the night after that night. So I can't go because I have to work. But, everybody who can go should go. Any other rallies that happen to come up as these gun control bills are introduced and as the fight for our Second Amendment rights intensifies over the next couple of years, we all need to go. We need to, if we can't go, we need to throw some money at it. We need to spread the word. We need to encourage others to go. We need to make sure that everybody that has even the slightest little bit of Second Amendment leanings and might want to protect their rights is aware of what's going on and has the opportunity and is encouraged to stand up on their hind feet and make their voices heard. We cannot afford to lay back and think that somebody else is going to do it. You know what? You are somebody else. Get off your ass and get something done. Anything. Even if it's write a check for $5 to an organization that's going to help you, that's at least $5 more that they had that they wouldn't have otherwise. You did something. Get up, get something done. I know not everybody has the microphone and a platform as small as mine is. I'm trying to use it for good. Everybody needs to do something.
One thing I would add, Pennsylvania, for those who don't really know, is basically surrounded by gun control states. You know what I mean? They really are.
Ohio's not a gun control state.
Huh?
Ohio's not a gun control state.
Close enough. Point being, if what happens in Pittsburgh falls, let me tell you, the governor's already backing it. What's his name? Kenny from Philly's already backing it. Now, Philadelphia has tried to put in gun control and they can't. If they're able to in Pittsburgh, Philly's going next. And it's going to spread like wildfire across the whole state. If PA falls, everybody in the neighboring states, I hate to say it, but good luck. It's going to be like Mad Max Beyond the Thunderdome. All right? Like, seriously. We already have a bunch of, I'm on the East Coast near Philly, it's already bad over here. With Philly becoming a sanctuary state and everything, and a bunch of other little places trying to as well, it's gotten bad. You know, it's hell on top of hell. It's like a different level of hell from Dante's Inferno is going to be coming, and it's going to spread down. In my opinion, to the west, going towards central of the United States, and going down south, Virginia, West Virginia, straight on down to Florida. It's going to spread. So if I'm not saying it's the only last stand, but if you are able to, I would highly encourage you make videos about what's going on in Pittsburgh. If you can go, please go. Again, like Budget said, not everybody can. You know, I'm gonna be working. I got a job. If you can show up, or you have friends and family that can show up, anybody, you know, spread the word. Because that last rally that was in Harrisburg, they had what was 1,000 some people, I believe. I mean, that's nice, but I haven't seen a lot of local people that I know that talk about firearms and stuff. Like when I went to the gun range 3 days ago, roughly. No one was talking about it. I asked somebody about it. They didn't even know what I was talking about.
And that's the problem. This is the problem. A, people don't know. And B, when they do find out, they shrug their shoulders and go, somebody else will deal with it. As an example, this rally we had in Ohio last year, or at the beginning of this year, actually, back in, what was it, April, where I met you, Squib. Squib came from out of state. I couldn't get any of my friends from here in Ohio. And yeah, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. I couldn't get any of them to get up off their ass and spend 8 hours to go down to this, to drive down to Columbus and deal with this. You know, I met two different people online and I rode with them, which Dave, if you're still out there, thumbs up to you, buddy. You know, to go down, but guys I've known for 30 years shrug their shoulders and you know, they're supposedly pro-gun guys, supposedly pro-Second Amendment and want to stand up for their rights, but they didn't go. Apathy on the part of the average gun owner is our biggest freaking enemy, and we need to do whatever we can. Those of us that are listening, those of you that can hear this, you can help by trying to get energized everybody that you know who is even slightly Second Amendment friendly, trying to get them energized to stand up and write a freaking letter, make a phone call, write a check, you know, do something. Instead of stand there and go, someone else will do it. That's why we lose these things, is because of apathy.
And I can attest to that, absolutely. If anybody out there listening to this now live or later on the replay or whatever, take a few minutes later tonight and Google Maryland gun laws, and then Google a bunch of the other hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of laws that Maryland has. If you don't think your state will become my state, wait till you wake up in the morning, and you need to register all your firearms, and you need to go through all the hoops and jumps and the nonsense that we go through around here. Like Stealth is saying, and like Budget is saying, if you don't pay attention to what's happening in your backyard, just rename your state Maryland, because they'll come and take all your stuff. And look, as bad as Maryland is, it's not New Jersey. And as bad as New Jersey is, it's not California. So if you don't think that the most influential state in our union, being California, won't spread, then you're living in a dream world. You know, Stealth Hunter's right. You've got to stay vigilant, and you've got to put your part in. Whatever your part might be, that's up to you. You'll find that out in your own heart and you know, your own lifestyle. But if you just sit down and do nothing, then you might as well move here, because they're gonna come take all your rights. Oh, that can't happen. Look at the state laws here in Maryland. It'll happen.
And Rob D says the same thing about the SAFE Act. No one would go or do anything besides complain. Yeah, sure, they'd sit around and complain, but what would they actually do? Would they try to get anybody to go out to the polls? Did they write letters? Did they make donations to the local and state gun rights organizations? Did they do anything other than bitch about it? Probably not. And that's why they lost that. Calaveras says, if you can hear this, you are the resistance. And that's right. You should be.
He also says California is the Kansas is Calaveras. It is a big part why Texas is about to flip blue. And for all of our lives, we've all heard never in Texas. It'll never happen in Texas. No way. Ask Mr. Matt what's happening in Texas. Ask Clover. You know, Texas is just as subject to any other state. If you don't pay attention and stand up for yourself, they're going to roll right over you. And like Budget always said, they're not going to roll over you with a giant steamroller. They're going to roll over you with a tiny step on the foot. And then for 1,000 days, they're going to step on your foot until that one little spot is so sore and hurts so much that you just can't take it anymore.
You know, it's the old adage about how do you about boiling a frog. You know, if you throw the frog into boiling water, he's going to hop right out. But if you put him in that water and you turn the heat up a little bit at a time, he'll stay right there in that water till he's cooked alive. And that's what's happening to us. That's what's happening to all of us. It's what's been happening to all of us. And it's because of apathy. People have their head down, paying attention to their own immediate surroundings, doing nothing but being blind and going throughout their day, but until they look up one day and things are far different than they were the last time they checked, because they waited too damn long and did nothing about it. You know, we have and I don't have enough time to go into the next piece that I was going to talk about there's a piece in the New York Times about how banks unwittingly finance mass shootings and them calling for credit card companies to track purchases of gun owners, gun purchases and whatnot. I'll probably do a single shot about this in a day or two. So look for that. But, you know, they're going to come at us from the left, right, center, up, down, sideways, whatever way they can, a little bit at a time. Somebody out there, Psycho316, said the death by 1,000 cuts. That's what they've been doing, people. And I've been saying it ever since I've started doing this broadcast for the last year. That's what I mean by this whole incrementalism thing that they've been doing. They take a little bit here and a little bit there, and before you know it, they've got everything. And we need to wake up and do something about it. As I said, I'm not Night Strike running around saying, shall not be infringed with my hair on fire, and saying we need everything right now. But by God, we need to stand up and pay attention and start taking our little bit by little bit by little bit. That's what we need to do. Calaveras says, tracked by credit card purchase. Well, I can't order online anymore, so I might as well buy it all in cash. That's right. I highly advocate buying it in cash if you can anyway. All right, I'm done ranting.
Use a debit card, not a credit card.
Seven Wonders says, folks, Gizzard, Gary, David Boley, and I all posted on YouTube the letters we wrote to President Trump. If you haven't done so yet, please consider it. Just takes a few minutes, and it certainly can't hurt. Absolutely right. Do something. Make your voice heard.
You can roll through this chat here and look at the panel. We got Ohio, Maryland, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, California, New York. So there's plenty of other states where I don't know where everybody's from. So they're all out there. And a lot of everybody in the chats are all saying the same thing, that this one's coming for this one. So it's not like just one or two states is under attack. They're coming in every single state. So wherever you are, there's somebody plotting to take away your freedom. And I don't want to just knuckle it down to guns. I love guns. I love the Second Amendment. I love this whole thing. But what I love more than guns, there's freedom. And any assault on freedom is an assault on all freedom, whether it's my free speech, my private property rights, my Second Amendment rights, or whatever rights that I was granted by God. When you come to attack those, they're all under attack as far as I'm concerned.
Well, and the thing that the enemies of freedom understand more than most is that the firearm, the gun, is the linchpin for protecting and preserving your freedom. Because if you don't have the right to be armed, you can't defend yourself. You can't defend your liberty. You can't defend your family. You can't defend your property from those who would take all of those from you. And speaking of which, this is proven every week when I give you the self-defense shout-outs when I talk about those, which we're going to go ahead and move into now. For those of you who aren't aware, self-defense shout-outs is the segment where I am not glorifying in the death or injury of the bad guy. I am, in fact, glorifying in the continued life, liberty, and happiness of the good guy. I'm glorifying in the fact that the good guy had the means, method, and opportunity to defend themselves from those who would prey upon them. The first self-defense shout-out. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. The first self-defense shout-out comes from the Sarah Newell in the Winston-Salem Journal from December 21st. Fatal shooting, the result of attempted home invasion, Davidson County Sheriff says. Lexington. A man was fatally shot outside of a house Thursday night following an attempted home invasion, the Davidson County Sheriff's Office said. The Sheriff's Office identified the man killed as Sylvester Bagley, 21. It was not immediately clear where he lived. The Sheriff's Office said deputies were called to a shooting on the 100 block of Upton Street just outside of Lexington city limits about 9:30 p.m. and found Bagley dead in the front yard from a single gunshot wound. The resident of the house reported an armed person tried to enter his house on Upton Street, and the resident shot the person in self-defense, the Sheriff's Office said. Bagley was pronounced dead at the scene. The Sheriff's Office is still investigating. Next up, from Christmas Eve, homeowner's son shoots suspect allegedly stealing on Christmas Eve. By A.W. Hawkins and Breitbart, a Jacksonville, Florida homeowner's son shot a suspect who was allegedly stealing a TV and an Xbox game system on Christmas Eve. News4Jax reports that the incident occurred in the Woodstock area of Jacksonville's west side on Christmas Eve. Action News Jax reports that the homeowner's 22-year-old son caught the suspect outside and fired the shots, resulting in non-life-threatening injuries. The homeowner, Teresa Perkins, indicated that her son and the alleged burglar know each other. Perkins said, "At first I thought it was my son that it had happened to him, but he was telling me somebody broke in and took his Xbox and my TV. He told me his name, said he knows him." Just Zone 5 Watch Commander Lieutenant Ashish Sarkar commented after the incident, saying, "In recent days, this area has experienced a little bit increase in violence. So we have an increased presence out here to make sure that over the holiday weekend, we can suppress some of this violent crime." Next up, by Fox 10, from Phoenix, police, 7-Eleven clerk shoots suspect during armed robbery. Phoenix, Fox 10. Police say a clerk shot a suspect during an armed robbery at a Phoenix 7-Eleven early Monday morning. This is from December 24th. According to Phoenix police, the shooting happened near 7th Avenue and Indian School at 2 a.m. when two suspects attempted to rob the convenience store. Police say a 7-Eleven clerk fired at the suspects, striking one of them. The injured suspect was taken to a hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. He will be booked into jail once he is released from the hospital. The other suspect is believed to be a juvenile and remains on the loose. Prior to this incident, both suspects were involved in two other armed robberies on the same day. During the first armed robbery, the suspects robbed a convenience store near 12th Street and Maryland Avenue at 1:16 a.m. Police say during this robbery, one of the suspects struck his store clerk in the head with a handgun. The suspect then committed a second armed robbery at another convenience store near 7th Street and Bethany Home Road at 1:45 a.m. No one was injured during this armed robbery. And finally, last but not least, from Reidsville, North Carolina, by myfox8.com, from December 26th, customer shoots at two armed robbers inside convenience store in Reidsville. One man arrested, two wanted. Reidsville, North Carolina. A customer who shot at two armed robbers inside a Reidsville convenience store Christmas Day morning, according to a press release. The armed robbery occurred at Stop and Shop convenience store located at I guess the address, around 2:15 a.m. Tuesday. Two men entered the business dressed all in black clothing, wearing masks and gloves. Both men showed a handgun and held the cashier and two other people inside the business at gunpoint as they robbed the store. One of the customers was armed and shot at the two robbers. Investigators said they believe the two suspects were struck by the customer's gunfire. The customer's name is not being released at this time, according to the press release. The two suspects got into a vehicle and left heading east on Highway 158. There was a driver who stood by with a vehicle as the store was robbed. Neither the store clerk nor the patrons at the store were injured. Rockingham County Sheriff's investigators have since charged and arrested Jordan Thomas, 24, with robbery with a dangerous weapon. He was placed in the Rockingham County Detention Center under a $50,000 secured bond. Investigators are now trying to locate Willie Lindsay Settle, 29, of Reedsville, and Jacqueline Marquise Bridges, 21, of Reedsville, in connection with this armed robbery. Police said these individuals should be considered armed and dangerous. So there you go. Those things that don't happen. The good guy with the gun stopping a bad guy with the gun. You know, people protecting themselves from harm and injury. Except in one case of these, the whole property thing. I'm not sure how approving I am of the dude shooting somebody to protect his Xbox. Yeah, the dude should have never been trying to steal from him, but you know, I don't know that I would want to shoot somebody over that. Unless I caught him coming in. If you catch him coming in the house, that's it for you. But I don't think I would have went outside to do it. But at any rate, there you have the good guys protecting themselves from the bad guys. And that's the way it should be. I want to thank everybody for coming by and joining us this evening. Anything that you guys want to say out there in the panel? Kingpin, anything you want to plug, sir?
No, just make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe to Budget Guns and Gears Reviews.
Well, thank you very much, sir.
And I do actually want to say, go over to gun channels and make sure you follow over on gun channels. And then go over on Gunstreamer and guntube.org and do the same thing. Because, yeah, YouTube's the biggest, baddest guy on the block. It wasn't at one time. What made it is the 22 people in this chat today and the people on this panel. So if we want gun channels and Gunstreamer and GunTube to grow, let's start using them a little bit, you know?
That's right. Absolutely right. Squib, anything you'd like to say, sir?
I guess we need to keep people in the loop as much as possible. Shows like this promote awareness on laws that are trying to get passed, laws that have been passed, any sort of changes. And the Self Defense Shoutout, I think, is good because you're reporting the law that events that the popular media don't want to report. So I think people on our side realize how often these things are used to protect life as opposed to taking life. And unfortunately, the masses don't get that. They don't get to see that. So there's other shows like this that are out there, and I encourage people to double check, fact check, keep everybody on their toes, jump in either in the live chat or ask for a link to some of these shows and jump in and put in your 2 cents. And if anybody's involved in their Pro 2A organization, for example, this Pennsylvania Firearms Owners Association, I went right to their homepage, and it should have been in big print right on the very front of the homepage about the rally, and it wasn't. I actually had to do some digging around and navigating to find a post by one of their members, I'm guessing grand member, about the rally. And I think that the simple fact is, if you can't just type in Pennsylvania 2A rally and poof, the website pops up, it's going to be hard to get the word out, and it's going to take things like shows like this or postings on gun channels, other places like that, for people to stay in the loop. So everybody just stay vigilant.
Stealth Hunter, anything you want to add, sir? Thanks for coming by again, by the way.
I appreciate the invite. Apologize for being late. Had to deal with some stuff. Everybody just, keep your head up and do what you got to do. Learn. Everybody here had good points. Learn. Try to be informed. Try to inform other people. A lot of stuff is getting harder and harder to find out. I'll tell you what my dad told me. It ain't illegal to read yet. It's becoming more and more illegal to learn. So go for that knowledge. Do what you got to do. That's all I got.
All right. Well, thank you, sir. Words of wisdom. I want to thank everybody in the chat for spending some quality time with us this evening. I, as always, am humbled and grateful that you would decide to spend your time with us. I would encourage you all, of course, go check out gun channels. Absolutely go on over to Gun Streamer. Let's go ahead and make that platform grow. It is a pro Second Amendment community, basically by us, for us. We need to support it and make it grow. They are welcoming of our type of content. And while I guess we cannot abandon YouTube because it is, the big platform where we can get a wide variety of audience, we need to show love to those who show love to us. So head over there. As far as what everybody out here in the chat, what you can do, well, I understand that not everybody wants to fire up the microphone and start a show of their own, and that's fine. You don't have to do that, but I know all of you have, well, maybe not all, but the majority of you, I'm sure, have Facebook accounts, have Twitter accounts, have Snapchat, have, whatever other social media outlets that you have. Get on them. Share the Second Amendment message. Share memes. Share articles. If you come across, a blog post that makes a good point, share it. Spread the word of things like this Pennsylvania rally. That's how you can help, even, and it doesn't cost you a dime. Let's get this message out. Let's get it spread, because we're going to have to. It's going to take all of us to work together and pull to counteract the effect of Bloomberg and his cronies' money that's going to be coming up over the next 2 years. Call your congressman, send emails, send letters, smoke signals, heliograph, semaphore, telephone, telegraph. Do whatever you have to do to let them know what you think, and spread the message far and wide, and never, ever, ever give up the fight.